Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you happen to be in this weird, wild, wacky world of ours. Our scene tonight is set in the Clontarf Castle Hotel, also known as the Tremere Chantry, which is currently under construction and closed to the public. But to those who have an invitation, it's very much open. Katja has asked that someone from her past meet her there in an attempt to suss out just what he knows and what he knows about her involvement in certain political affairs.
Some could even say illicit.
Katya would be waiting for him in the bar. When Sam arrives, he would be greeted by a ghoul, dressed handsomely, and the ghoul would greet him in a friendly manner and lead him towards the bar.
Sam will politely stroll on in his cloak of shadows form, and he'll come up to the bar. And when he sees Katya for the first time after a little while here, he just kind of pauses, like he walks, and he almost stops like dead center, looks at her, looks around, checks over his shoulder, doing the typical like, okay, what are you playing at? And then he continues to walk toward the bar, but much slower now and much more cautiously. And you can
There
see his
are
left. And
there are
go ahead.
there are 3 glasses sitting on the bar. 2 glasses of wine and a glass of blood.
He
Katja is
looks.
sitting in front of one of the glasses of wine, wearing the rather simple outfit that she's wearing in the photo.
He looks down at the glasses. He looks up, and he holds his hand out to one of the chairs, and he's like, "May I sit?"
Please, have a seat.
Yeah. He looks down at the 3 wine glasses again, looks back up, and he says, "You know, with my experience with you in games," and he kind of gets this wry smile on his face, and he says, "It doesn't often very go well for me, if you know what I mean. You, on the other hand, it goes quite well for."
It's simply a peace offering.
Hmm. I have to admit that is a lovely outfit. Quite a bit different than the past forte. I believe you wore a uniform in those days.
I did.
Hmm.
I have changed myself significantly since then.
Interesting. How so? It's very rare that I witness people of our stature to change.
I'll put it this way, the remorse that I felt over the things I did drove me to... I voluntarily went into torpor for a good few decades. When I
Interesting.
awoke, I left Europe altogether. Moved to Orlando, of all places. Much like Dublin, it had recently been liberated from Sabbat control, and they needed help rebuilding. So that's just what I did.
So you decided to have the classic redemption, as it were.
Hardly a classic redemption. I've struggled the entire way, but the things I did were sorry about that.
No worries.
The things I did were disgusting. Not that as much as I would have liked to get rid of those memories, I can't bring myself to do so. They're what motivate me to keep going, to never go back to that.
I agree. They make us what we are today. I have to ask, how is the sociopath doing nowadays?
Long since dead, thankfully.
Good riddance to him.
I hadn't seen him since, well, since the end of the war.
Indeed, I must ask, how is his face?
Last I saw, not in a very pretty condition.
Good. He always was bragging about how good he looked. Figured I'd,
Mm,
I figured that would be my last moment, so I put one right between his eyes. Needless to say, that fall didn't kill me, but oh dear lord, did that hurt.
I mean, clearly it didn't kill you, my dear. You're sitting in front of me.
Well, I don't
She would
know.
kind
Maybe
of take a sip of wine.
perhaps the Giovanni have brought me back as some sort of crazed wraith. He shrugs a bit. No, I think I am still whole, mostly. Can I
But
ask you
no,
something?
of course.
This is a bit of a personal question. I know that you regret what you did, but I have two things to ask.
Of
One,
course.
what brought about the change? What brought about your realization that perhaps what you were doing was not your forte? In those days, you seemed to really enjoy what you did.
I realized I was turning into my former husband, and I could not let that happen.
Wanted to be something better.
I make no excuses for the things I did. But everything that he did to me, well, most of it I can't even actually remember now thanks to that auction, but
Ah, yes. But perhaps it was a small victory. The
perhaps
other,
getting rid of those memories, it alleviated a lot of pain that I had been holding back and keeping my finger for 300 years.
I still hear him. The screams. I remember a lot of the faces.
I do
Some
too.
of some of them were people I fought with. Did you? This is an odd question, but I think I just need to get it off my chest. Did you enjoy torturing me?
Unlike most of the others, I took no joy in the things that I did. Clan Tremere put me in that position. I was going to do what I had to do.
Understood. When you came back and got involved here in Dublin and all of the efforts that have gone into this place, I take it you have kept that part of your past and part of your life a bit of a secret due to some of the rather critical events that happened back then.
There is only one person in Dublin, aside from my blood siblings, who knows what happened back then. And he only knows as of earlier this evening.
I see. I take it you want to keep it that way.
I would prefer it stayed that way, as there are still certain parties that seek my final death for the events that happened back then.
Interesting. There are still those who are holding that big of a grudge. And he kind of chuckles a bit. Well, besides me a couple hours ago.
Indeed. There are still... I am still hunted. And keeping my identity a secret is the only thing that has saved me.
Well, you have nothing to worry about from me. I will keep this secret. As far as I'm concerned, you are just another fellow kindred here in Dublin, who I merely have associations with.
I greatly
Now,
appreciate that.
of course, I am not one to try and hold a grudge, and it seems that you have truly and honestly sought forth your redemption. Now, I do have a bit of a small question here. I'm not familiar with Tremere policies. What is with the glasses?
It was simply a drink. I wasn't sure whether you preferred wine or blood, so I left both.
He'll gladly take one of the wine and he'll drink it. And he says, "Normally, I don't mind the offering, but sometimes, no offense to the Tremere, I do respect them highly. When a Tremere offers me blood, that can mean a very good thing, or that can mean a very bad thing. If you know what I mean." And he kind of gets this very wry, kind of like look on his face.
You have nothing to worry about from me. I'm not most Tremere.
He nods and he's like, "That is a good thing. Most of us kindred face enough threats from all sides at this day, especially after this auction." Ugh.
That auction, uh, Emily still owes me a pair of shoes.
Yeah, I maybe heard / saw that.
Oh,
That
heavens.
was well, I mean, it was very good and it was covered up professionally well. And if I hadn't been around, that probably wouldn't have known, or if I hadn't had resources that I've been putting into finding any interlopers or red listers around. But that's a record almost 3 masquerade violations within the hour. I was sweating there at the computer for a sec.
Oh, you weren't the only one. I believe we were all, a little hot under the collar, so to speak.
Yeah. I was almost worried that I was going to not be seeing at least 2 of you after that was over.
sorry.
It's okay. Having children around the kindred is a dangerous aspect, but it can be beneficial. It's important to hold our loved ones close to us.
Yes, I. Before that night, I owed Emily a boon for saving me, but as she put my life in danger that night, that boon is now paid.
Indeed, one could consider the boon paid after that. Out of curiosity, Kellen, what is it's okay. What would you consider our problem here in Dublin? What is founding Dublin to this point? What needs to be fixed? What area of expertise needs aid? I'm a businessman second, but I'm a kindred first, and I am here to help out my fellow kindred. It's why I arrived in Dublin. It was the purpose that I was given in Chicago. And in all honesty, I've been having a bit of difficulty finding a purpose to use because even with all my resources and all my skills, I have been in the dark, so to speak. In the dark without auspex, so to speak.
Oh, even in true darkness, aspects won't help you. And
So
that's
I've
what we're
heard.
facing, is true darkness. Ishar is a problem. And a problem that my clan created.
Then he is of Clan Tremere.
Yes. He was one of us once.
How old is this one?
In truth, I'm not actually certain. I
Do we
do
know-
know he once mentored my sire, who, when he sired me some 300 years ago, was already well into his 4th century.
Do we know who his sire was?
No. I don't, anyway. I mean, we certainly could ask Mr. Ivanov, as he is the childer of this monster.
I do not believe I have met this Mr. Ivanov.
He is hard to get a hold of. I recall when I first met Lord Stalheim in Belfast, Ivanov had to be dragged into the building by 2 ghouls.
That bad, huh?
All of this issues comes back to his sire. I imagine he would make himself somewhat scarce.
He takes a swig of the blood. Is it anything at all, or is it just some random donors?
It probably comes from one of her herd.
Mm-hmm. He'll take a sip of it and gesture and say thank you.
Not a problem.
And he says, speaking of which, this auction that happened, as I mentioned before, I was worried it was a way to try and control the higher ranking members of the kindred here in Dublin and have them basically enslaved to this auctioneer, or perhaps whoever controls this auctioneer.
Rumpelstiltskin?
Rumpelstiltskin. Yes, I still can't believe that. What I want to know is, if you can speak of this, of course, what actions are going to be done if he decides to make some requests of those boons and payments that are owed that are perhaps maybe a little too outrageous or endangering to us?
Hmm. Oh, the rules were made quite clear from the start. A minor favor will put no danger on us, but the major favors, those are the dangerous ones. He
And
could ask for anything.
unfortunately, there were quite a few of those that were thrown around.
There were. That's why I avoided bidding them at any cost, including my own memories.
Interesting enough.
And 12 souls,
Yeah,
but that was a regrettable
that
necessity.
must have been difficult. I take it you were under pressure.
Lord Ishar wanted the last breath of the abyss, and the prince made quite clear that I was to outbid him, no matter what it took.
Actually, that is a quick question. I have asked several kindred this already, but who exactly, under legal premises, owns the touch of the abyss right now at this moment?
I do.
Indeed. Are we going to, are the Tremere going to huddle around and have a vote on what to use it for? I believe we only get one question.
We get one question. And
And I
those of
take
us
it,
that entered that abominable breach within our former Elysium will come together to decide what question will be asked.
from what I hear, it is not a pleasant place to go.
No, it wasn't. There was a lot of danger involved in that night. But Clan Tremere needed a representative, and who better to send than the Primogen?
You mean who better to use as a scapegoat in case something goes bad?
Precisely.
Yeah, you know all about that. Us Nosferatu are always the scapegoats of everything.
But yes, we closed that breach, but at great cost.
I think that's what I heard. There was a casualty.
Not just that casualty.
How many?
The item that was used to close the breach required a sacrifice of 169 souls.
Fuck.
But when you weigh that versus the world,
Yeah. The
we
needs
did
of the
what was
many
necessary.
needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. However, that is very easy to say when you are not the few. But yes, I
It did.
understand. I know
Had
all
we
about
not
sacrifice.
closed that breach, it would have spread and consumed all of Dublin.
I have no doubt. I know. I know what it means to sacrifice. I know what it means to sacrifice painfully.
Unfortunately, that sacrifice came down to Francis.
Man's been put into some rather precarious positions recently, hasn't he?
He has. He's a good man.
Indeed, and I've been.
There would be a slight kind of smile on her face at mentioning him.
Uh, Sam's eyebrow just like one of his eyebrows just raises like to the roof and could saw the roof in half at this point. And then he kind of looks like his face is just motionless at this point. And then he slowly starts to nod and he says, "Okay." And thinks for a moment. He says, "Well, I know. There are a few kindred that I'm trying to gain some trust and favors with in the city. He is one of them. Um, I've been meaning to ask, what has been going on with this institution or patients escaping? What's that all about? I haven't found anything on that yet.
I honestly could not tell you. I have been so busy between the auction and trying to get this place renovated to become a proper chantry. It. Trying to do much of anything else has been a strain.
Do you require funds or resources?
Oh no, it's fine.
Hmm. He goes ahead and he slides along one of his business cards, and he says, "Just in case, I do deal with a lot of things, and I can get you most things. It's just something I try and do. Like I said, I'm here to help out my fellow kindred and help solve the problems in Dublin. Because believe me, there was enough problems in Chicago, and don't even get me started on Maxwell."
Katja would take it and slide it into a small wallet that she keeps on her.
You believe the Sabbat actually tried a major full-scale invasion of Chicago not too long ago?
It somehow wouldn't surprise me.
Indeed, they didn't even care. We were able to pass it off in the media as a, and I say in quotes, terrorist attack.
Oh
But that,
heavens.
yeah, they went all out. They blew up two major skyscraping buildings. One of them was National Guard Bank One Number One. I'm astounded. I've never seen them go that far, but they did.
Well, from what we are hearing, we will soon face a similar incursion if we don't cut it off.
Indeed, it's. I think we're about to feel the storm here in just a little bit, which is why I think we should stay united and stop. Forgive me, I don't wish to be offensive, but some of us are squabbling over things we shouldn't. I
I agree.
I understand that some fellow kindred and some kindred that I know and are allies with maybe have made some mistakes in the past, but that's not
If
exactly
you are
something we should be
referring
worried about.
if you are referring to Monique, that has been for the most part settled.
You see him kind of visibly, not like to an extreme, but he noticeably relaxes at that.
She does still owe Lord Stahlheim a life boon. A grand mistake.
I don't believe I've met Lord Thimehelm yet. What is this man like?
I should not speak in present company. She would kind of
I see.
let her eyes roam over to the ghoul standing around, just kind of sweeping.
I understand, of course. I'm not trying to imply anything bad about the man. I just would perhaps like to meet him.
She sees this look that just screams, "No, you don't."
Ah, he kind of looks back, and then he looks up at the sky, looks back down at her, and he says, "Ah, yes, someone who likes his own work. I see. I have to admit, I didn't think I would meet anyone weirder than when I first met Strauss, but well, I suppose so. Have you met Strauss? He is I believe he is currently the premier primogen of Los Angeles, I believe.
I have not. I didn't spend. The time I spent in the United States was fairly limited. Only last 15 or so years, but
I
I
see. And
digress.
how were things?
I didn't leave Orlando for the
And I have to admit, how was the cleanup after the Orlando incident? I wasn't able to get down there and see what happened.
well, Much like Dublin, it was under Sabbat control until the Camarilla finally decided to step in and depose them. In that madness, somehow one of my clanmates was installed as the prince. A good man, but
Interesting.
not a mind for politics.
I don't think any of us, no matter how old, no matter how twisted, no matter how good we may be at politics, I don't think any of us are built for our politics. And it's our politics.
He made sure to seat me on the Primogen Council so that he did have some backup.
Well, that's good for you. Very nice.
It was. It was helpful. It was a pain. Many of them are of that particular council are very staunch and very conservative. Very much traditionalists, stuck in their pasts. Long since stopped being relevant.
Interesting. Well, as I said, I think our meeting is well worth it, and I accept your offering. I no longer hold any grudge towards you
I
whatsoever,
agree.
and I will not speak of anything about your past unless you wish me to. And that I will promise.
I do
If
have an offer
you
for
go ahead.
you.
Mm-hmm. Go on.
Sunset thing for this ostentatious chantry.
Out of character, your microphone
I had
literally had a
been
stroke. I couldn't hear a word you said.
planning on. It was probably, my son screaming. Let's be fair. Once I'm doing chantry, shelter within my domain. You like charity work at all, you are welcome to come help out.
Gladly. Say the word, and I'm there to help.
That has become somewhat my specialty. Domestic violence and homeless shelters. I have a network of 5 of them spread across Orlando at the moment.
That's a good thing to hear. If I was a much crueler man, I would say that was a dramatic twist of irony, but I'd say it's much more of a twist of fate at this point.
Yes. Part
He
of
holds out his
my
hand to shake.
penance.
He kind of pauses for a moment, looks as though he's kind of lost in thought.
But yes,
He
any help is always welcome.
he nods, and after he comes out of his little kind of pause of thought, there he holds out his hand to shake.
She would shake his hand.
And it is done. Look forward to doing business with you in the future. And he picks up
Indeed.
his hat, puts it on. He gives a very polite tilt to her, and he says, "Happy hunting, and may the blood of Cain always light your path. Good
Happy
day.
hunting.
Good night." And he nods and then proceeds to leave the building out into the probably pouring rain at this point.
Probably. It's Dublin. What do you expect? Thank you, player, for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. Have a pleasant evening, and we'll see you next time.